Hey, how are you? How are you keeping? It's Owen from the HiiKER podcast, and this is the HiiKER podcast. How have you been? Have you been outside? Have you been hiking? Have you been backpacking? Have you been packing your bag as if you're going on a long distance hiking adventure, but you have to unpack it because you're not actually going on a long distance hiking adventure because of COVID? Maybe? I haven't, I swear. But look, it looks like there's a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel for us in Ireland. Looks like we might be opening up our restrictions so I can travel a little bit further. Not far enough to go hiking, but just take what I can get, I suppose. So I'm absolutely delighted to share with you an interview I did with somebody that I've wanted to get onto the show for quite a while now. A good friend. Well, I would consider her a good friend. We've never actually met in person. We've spoken on the phone, we've spoken on Zoom, we've spoken over social media and Instagram. She was supposed to come over here to Ireland to do a course, and we were going to hang out, we're going to go hiking and all that, but something happened around the world that caused everyone to have to stay at home. So that didn't happen, but we've kept in touch, and she has done some fantastic things all around the world, and she's got some amazing plans coming up. Gail Muller, an adventurer, an educator, and just an all-round amazing human being. She has a fantastic story, and she's a fantastic storyteller. So I can't wait for you guys to listen to this. Gail is such a good storyteller. She's actually released a book. Well, she's written a book, and it's coming out later this year. It's coming out on the 7th of September, and it's called Unlost. So if you search Gail Muller Unlost, you'll be able to find that. Or if you search Gail Muller on Instagram, you'll find her there. Gail's just one of these people that you click with. She's just a very personable person, approachable, talkative. Conversation with her flows really easily. So this is one of the shorter interviews I've done, but I really enjoyed it. She has a fantastic story, and she's so good at telling it. So in that short space of time, she's still able to convey such a compelling story, and I really hope you enjoy it. But before we get into that, a word from our sponsors. Hey, it's me, the sponsor. This podcast is powered by HiiKER, long distance hiking trails. Currently we have mapped nearly 1,700 long distance trails from around the world. I'm actually going to go double check that 1 second. I was actually wrong there. We have mapped over 1,700 long distance trails from around the world. 1,701 to be exact. From walks in the woods to mountain traverses to nations spanning through hikes, HiiKER has a trail for everyone who wants to truly explore the great outdoors. Download the HiiKER app for free in your app store now, or head over to hiiker.app, that's HiiKER.app, to discover your next great adventure. And of course, please like, share, comment on the podcast. We really want to hear your feedback. Hope you're enjoying this. I hope you're taking something out of it. Let me know what you think. You can also email the podcast at podcast@hiiker.co. That's podcast@HiiKER.co. Let me know what you think. Is there anything you want us to talk about? Is there any people you'd like us to interview? I'd like to hear from you. But for now, I hope you enjoy my interview with Gail Muller, hiker, author,
Hi.
all-round good person. How are you doing?
So kind of you. Thanks so much. I'm really well, thanks. Despite lockdown, despite everything, I'm rallying.
Just been talking. I suppose this podcast has basically been born out of me sitting at home having nothing else to do. So I just started calling up friends and hikers and chatting to them about, them being stuck in their house and not being able to do anything. How has lockdown been for you for the past, what feels like 20 years, I suppose?
Yeah. So initially it was pretty tricky, wasn't it, for all of us? I had a whole year of really wonderful things lined up. I was going to do my WMC mountain medicine training in Ireland, where you are, just out of Dublin. And then I was going to head off to do the TMB. I was on the trail volunteer crew in Maine for the Appalachian Trail crew, to pay back, to say thanks for them looking after the trail so beautifully in my favorite state, really, that I hiked through on the AT. Then I was heading to the Smokies to finish off a few miles I got snowed out of the AT the year before. And then I was supposed to go and do the PCT, which I had a permit for, southbound, and then the Te Aroa. So all of that was in the bin. But what I did do instead was was signed to an agent for my pitch of a book, and then was snapped up by a publisher for my story, which is the backbone of which is the Appalachian Trail, but it's more multi-layered than just that, really. And then I wrote the book. So now I've got hopefully some big hikes coming up when we're allowed to move again. But I used the time well, and I was able to still focus on my great loves of the outdoors, education, adversity overcoming, and all the good stuff in a different way.
Amazing. Like I have been just overwhelmed with all the lists of hikes that people have just had to throw in the bin, my own lists, and all the guests that I've had on the podcast and friends. It is a bit sad, but I remember following you on your trip around the Southwest Coast Path.
Oh, yes, I did that. I forgot to say that.
Yeah, you forgot. It's just that little walk around the coast of the UK, and that took you several weeks.
Yeah, just 630 miles.
Yeah, just a flash in the pan. But it did kind of inspire myself, and I know other people. It did inspire us and just give us that kind of like, there's still outdoors out there. There's still hiking to be done, and even though we might only be able to go down 20 minutes down the road, there's still some stuff to be done. So I'll get to your book in a moment, but I suppose it'll all kind of naturally lead on to that. But you did the Appalachian Trail in 2019.
Yeah.
Got it straight away.
Boom.
Tell me, how did that come about? How did you decide to go and do the Appalachian Trail? Were you doing other hiking first and got onto that? Or did something happen? Was there an aha moment of, I need to go and hike from one end of America to the other?
Well, truly, the first time I ever read about the Appalachian Trail was Bill Bryson's book. Now, Bill Bryson gets a lot of shit for his book, especially from purists who are like, oh, he didn't even finish the trail, and oh, he just blethered on about a load of old shit. But actually, to be honest, I found that to be the very first time I had read or been aware that you could travel by foot such a long distance, and there was some way to live freely and in the outdoors and move great distances without having to be in buildings or to have, the usual human systems around you. And I was maybe 20, reading it on a train on some big journey somewhere. And being from the UK, although we love the outdoors and we have a big outdoors culture, it's a different culture than the American culture. And here, you really maybe you go to a campsite in a lovely place like the lakes, where you stay in a youth hostel in the lakes, and you'll go for day hikes and traverses, and you might do, the West Highland Way or something short. But in England, you don't have huts, you don't have wild camping supported and known about as you do in the States. So I hadn't been aware of it, that Americans support that so much, and that you could walk so far. So that was great. Thought, oh, I'll do that. That's brilliant. I was very fit, really sporty, athletic, was stroke rower in a gig rowing team down here, did a lot of running, a lot of water sports because I live by the sea in Cornwall. And then I got quite poorly. I had some pain in my back and my hips, and it got worse and worse and worse. And it's a long story, but I won't go into all the details, but it was pretty soul destroying in that I ran through the fingers of many, many doctors when I finally went to the doctors, because nobody wants to bother a doctor with a bad back. every bastard's got a bad back, so you just get on with it. But when I finally went to the doctors, it was becoming, fist gnawingly, vomitingly painful, and I couldn't seem to get through. And they thought it was a disc bulge and this and that and the other. And in the end, they kind of, over a period of 4 or 5 years, kind of said, we don't know what's wrong with you. So here's the pain clinic, and they will guide you into your future. So I was in my, early 30s. They will guide you into your future of disability badges, having to give up work, probably being really disabled, and we don't know how to stop it because we don't know what's wrong, so you're just gonna have to accept it. And I also had in my teens a diagnosis because my feet turned in a little bit by a doctor who said, oh, if you don't get I think probably you're going to be in a wheelchair by the time you're 40 unless we smash your feet and reset them and realign your pelvis. And I said, no, I'm fine, thanks, because I was like 14 or 13. And so that knowledge in the back of my head, combined with my increasing pain in my 30s, was like, oh yeah, I am doomed. But I kind of changed my mindset and decided eventually, when they were giving me more and more painkillers at the pain clinic and things were just looking so bleak. My personality is not to give in or give up. I'm so tenacious, and I will always find a way through, which is bad sometimes. Sometimes I just need to sit down and shut up and accept something. But I thought, okay, you can have acceptance. So I can accept that I'm in chronic pain and that I have to take painkillers, and it took me to very dark places. But I can also hope that things are going to be better. So I went around the world seeking different types of cures, remedies in this country, spiritual, emotional, physical, all kinds of therapies. And in the end, I found a therapist and some practitioners in northern Italy, where I was living to work, near Lake Maggiore and Como. They were on Lake Como. And they told me it was the alignment of my jaw and how my teeth met, and it was causing torsion through my entire body. So it was a chiropractor and a dentist. I didn't know at the time, but very well to do. Like, they treat Donatella Versace and Silvio Berlusconi and the AC Milan football team and Beckham and all those people. But I was just some Cornish bumpkin who was struggling and turned up at their office crying because some chiropractor had given me their number. Yeah, so over 3 years, I made great friends with them all, and they realigned my jaw, and they gave me braces and changed how my mouth was, and it's allowed me to rehabilitate myself on the pain lesson. So when I hesitate to say cured, because once you've had chronic pain for a long time, your pain pathways in your brain still exist. So even like when someone loses their arm in an accident, let's say, they have that phantom pain in their hand and the hand's not there.
Yeah.
Neuropathic pain is like that. So when my physical pain may be eased, my brain still sends messages of pain. But that aside, got myself together, was trail running, weightlifting, feeling great. And then thought, what do I do with this body now that I nearly threw away? Suicide had become an option. Asking my parents to help me die had become an option. And when I recovered from all of that, I thought, I'm going to take this body and I'm going to see what I can do with it, because it's mine again now. I'm friends with my pain, friends with the condition. So off I went. Thought, what's the hardest thing I can think of? Okay, the Appalachian Trail. What's even harder? Southbound. Yeah. Have I done anything like that before? No. Had I ever camped for more than a few nights that wasn't a festival and getting drunk? No. Okay, let's see what it's all about. So I went and did it.
So you had no long distance hiking before experience of before that?
Not a single bit. None whatsoever. Day hikes around the Cornish coast, let's say. I was outdoorsy and athletic because I'd been doing all the things I'd done. But with all those years of chronic pain, I was just living my outdoors life from behind the wheel of a car, looking out to sea, or gentle day hikes, or through books.
But I think from a mental perspective, you'd been preparing for this for years. You just haven't been able to actually do the thing, but you've probably mapped it out in your head as like, yeah, okay, I know what I need to carry. I know what that's going to be like. But the pain of walking 2,000 plus miles is never going to be what you went through.
No, yeah, you're right. Like, it's amazing that I did that when there were long periods of time when I couldn't get myself into the bathroom without using my arms and dragging myself across the floor, but not telling anyone that my pain was so much that I couldn't stand. But I take myself to work every day, loaded on painkillers, teaching, and then I come back and just sob on the stairwell of my apartment building, not being able to drag myself up into my flat at the end of the day, but didn't tell anybody because I was not going to give in. I was going to find a way. And that tenacity, I think, is what got me through the Appalachian Trail, especially the last 800 miles with 2 broken bones in my foot, one of them a displaced fracture. Yeah, so I did the last 800 miles with a broken foot, and I just thought, it's probably just a sprain. The hospital said it's a sprain, and I'm not going to give in.
Oh wow, that's a true story of overcoming adversity, and that's likely what your book is about. I assume that's what your book is about, unless you're writing about some other like life-changing moment.
No, I'm writing about horses. No, it's about it's about the trail. It's basically about how you can go. It's a story of acceptance, really. Acceptance plus hope, that to accept where you are does not mean that you cannot want to also be better. People eschew acceptance and think it means like giving up and sitting down, and it really doesn't. And it's all about making friends with things, your fear, your pain, whatever blockages, whatever issues that face you. If you fight them, this is my experience really, if you fight that I did for so long, I won't be in pain. I'm not going to let it get me down. Actually, all you're doing is creating more negative energy in yourself, your body, the whole idea, the language you use about whatever you're going through, even if it's an emotional thing, if it's a breakup, if it's the loss of a parent or the loss of a job or a business plan that you've plowed everything into. People tend to fight against accepting their feelings, but if you just feel, and if you just accept, and if you make friends with whatever situation that you're in, you can move through it more easily and work with it. So in the end, I was saying to myself, instead of I'm going out, even if I'm in agony and I'm going to walk around the park, it's how are you doing today, body? What do you feel like doing? What can we do together, pain? What are you going to let me do? Okay, we can do that. Let's go and do that today. And when you think about adversity in that way and you try and get along with it like a tricky colleague, then you can get somewhere with it, really. And it got me all the way, and it will take me even further. So the book is about the trail itself being the backbone, the beautiful, undulating, challenging, stunning Appalachian Trail, and overlaid across that are the themes of loss, adversity, fear, pain, and how those things can be coped with to live a full, wonderful outdoors life.
Amazing. So had you any kind of writing experience before that? Had you, where you know, do you have a formal background in that kind of thing, or is it?
My master's in broadcast journalism. My degree is in archaeology and ancient classical history and like some Egyptology stuff. So
they go hand in hand.
Yeah, not really related. I just wanted to be Indiana Jones. That was my big goal at university. So since I was like 9, didn't work out. So did postgrad. And then I guess I've always written a bit. I've always loved to write. I've always wanted to write a book. There's books in all of us. And I'm a voracious reader. But I didn't think that I'd actually really ever do it. And then this happened. This thing happened to me. I did the trail, and I just thought, okay. And because I'm a teacher and I love my teaching, an educator in all different respects, private tutoring, teaching teachers, as well as teaching students. I thought, okay, there are lessons that I've learned in this that other people could benefit from. So let's just put it down in a way that's engaging and entertaining and full of the rich, wonderful characters I met, and see if other people can glean something from it for themselves and parse it into their own life.
Yeah, because I was going to say, like, everything that you were talking about there, in terms of the themes of the book, it sounds like it can, a lot of people can cling on to the themes of, or sorry, it can relate it to, say, depression, which, for a lot of people, I'm sure you do talk about this in the book as well, but a lot of people who get into the outdoors do so, or in this case, into long distance hiking, is because it gives them that space to become friends with your depression and accept your depression. So I think that will resonate a lot with people that are into the outdoors. And I like, hopefully, it's not just going to be people that are into long distance hiking. It's not going to just the wild group or the Bill Bryson group. That this will be someone can pick up and just, the trail is just an analogy for life.
Yeah, it really is. Absolutely. And also, in the beginning of the book, really, I talk about how I'd fought and then made friends with this pain. This pain had been like my life partner for 15 years. It had to be. It informed my movements, my work, my job, my relationships, was all underpinned by the pain. And then when the pain went away, maybe 80% of it left, it was like, when you're leaning into the wind off the top of a cliff and you think it's fun, and then the wind drops and you're like, whoa, and you nearly fall off. It was like that. I hadn't realized how much I had identified myself with, even internally, because I didn't tell many people, but I was Gail with the pain, couldn't do this because of the pain. And when it had gone, I really wasn't sure who I was anymore. So I filled my life up with busy schedules. Moved to London, did all this, 4 jobs I was running, loads of different things. So busy socially, filling up my diary and just feeling emptier and more busy and more chaotic, and thinking that I was replacing my battle with my illness with the noise of life and buzz and city, thinking that's what I'd been missing the whole time that I'd been struggling. But actually what I realized was what I'd been missing was a deeper connection with just me. And I couldn't find that in the noise of a city, in a job that I didn't love anymore, and surrounded by material possessions. The more I earned, the more I bought. The more I bought, the more disgusted I was with the rubbish that was around me that cost so much money that I didn't give a shit about. And the more that accumulated, the more drowned I felt in all of these consumer possessions. And the more plans I made, the more my phone went off. And the more I felt attacked by text messages and emails. And in the end, I just thought, I need to get away, but I need to get away so far that there's none of this. Where? The woods. So it was only in the woods that I had enough stillness over time, and the forest kind of just took me in and allowed me to grieve everything in a slow motion, 1 footstep at a time, and come home to myself. And at the end of the trail, I just had assimilated all my broken parts back into one person who felt like themselves again. So hiking is a gift, and the outdoors is a gift, not just because it makes you feel brave or strong and all those wonderful things where you see animals or it's nice, but also because you are nature. And when you're in nature by yourself, your true nature can emerge like the trees grow. Your true nature will grow back out of you, I think, if that's not all too wishy-washy.
Not at all. No, I think everybody can relate to that. Absolutely. So you said that you found out about the AT back when you read the book, back in your early 20s. So was that just the first thing that came to mind? I was like, I need to do a big long walk. What's the first thing that came to mind? Why didn't you go do the PCT? Why didn't you do the TA, or why didn't you do any of the other trails? Was just that's been stuck in your head ever since?
Yeah, that was stuck in my head for a really long time. And also when I looked up the other trails, so I went to the trek.co website, which I love, and Zach, who runs that, is a really great guy. Their whole team are wonderful, and they have some really informative, brilliant stuff on there. So when I went and had a look and a bit of a deeper dive on like AT, PCT, so the CDT at that time was too far out of my comfort zone. It's the first time I'd only been like a few days in the tent drinking cider, but the AT was like, okay, or the PCT. And for me, the PCT, when I read them as a newbie hiker, seemed a little bit more like a moving Burning Man. And the AT seemed to me a little bit more like there was a gorgeous chaos coolness about the PCT that I didn't need, because I was in London and I was like, I've already got chaos, I've already got cool people, I've already got stuff going on that's like interesting and edgy fashion I can see and all of that stuff. Not interested. The AT was just like, it's just trees. Up, down, trees, really hard, really muddy, pissing with rain, probably hard, you might fucking hate it. And I'm like, that's the honesty that I need right now. I need mudslides, rock, and I need to scream into the trees, and I need them to take it all in for me. And they did.
Yeah,
I'm probably very wrong about the PCT.
When you said that, I said interesting, because it is something that I kind of think about. It has a likeness to a festival, and maybe that's just because the average age of hikers is getting a little bit younger,
Yeah,
Or
maybe.
maybe it's always been the same, and I'm just hopping in on in a bubble here. But you're right. You know, I think I agree with that. But obviously, there's
And that's not to
hikers.
diss,
No, not at all. Absolutely not at all.
because I
It's
can't wait to do the
because
PCT, but it wasn't what I needed then.
Burning Man is amazing. I haven't been, but like Burning Man looks amazing. Going to festivals is
Yeah.
amazing. But able to kind of have that festival experience that goes for 2,500 miles is also
Yeah. I
amazing.
mean, can you imagine how amazing that would be?
And also at the same time, you're surrounded by people of all age and all cultures. You've got, 70, 80-year-old hikers that are going there doing the entire thing. When you did the AT, were you still kind of in a way suffering with the pain, or was it completely gone?
No, it wasn't completely gone. But I tell you what, I really thought it was going to be challenging. And I think I thought that I'd probably get not that far in, and then I didn't even want to acknowledge it. But a lot of times I've trained for triathlons, or I've trained for ultras, and then I've had to pull out because I'm fine, and then my body just breaks down for no good reason. And I thought this is going to happen again. It cannot happen to me again. Like, I cannot. I've come so far, but I thought that I would. So I was in pain when I started, but minimal. And I'd spoken to my doctors, and they had given me my medication that I needed. And then I had to get proper certification to take opiates into the US, because obviously opiate crisis in the US, it's not going to be easy for me to walk into a doctor and go, hi, I take a certain small amount of codeine to manage some chronic pain. So I took my medication into the US, and I had it with me just in case, this little bag of pills, and like panicking that I was going to be in agony. The more I hiked, especially through the 100 mile, and then through, Mahusik, and then the Whites, and there's so much scrambling, and it's so challenging across the different planes of movement, the better I got, the less pain I was in. And I thought the more pain I would get in, but the harder it was, the better my body felt, because I was using all of these teeny tiny muscles in ways that I hadn't used before in years, because I hadn't needed to. So I was using my body in the way that animals should use their bodies, all in like all kinds of flow states, and with the weight on my back to steady myself as an anchor point through the middle. It absolutely was the most pain-free I've ever been, until I broke my foot. And of course I fell over a lot, and I gouged chunks out of my knees, and that's all just fine. They're normal person injuries, but my chronic injury seemed to really abate. But I also think, because I ascribe to the biopsychosocial model of pain management, which is, it's not just about what your physical body's doing, it's how you are socializing, if you like. It's about the actual disease or condition you have, plus what you're putting in your body, how happy you are, how much daylight you're getting, what you're eating. And so I think being in the outdoors, being around people who have elected to be in the outdoors because they love it, so they are by default joyful, and being on an adventure, having no time pressure, having nothing to think about and stress about apart from food, water, and shelter, they all helped my body to heal too. So I did kind of accidentally come off opiates halfway through, which wasn't great, but then I got more, and then I carried on. But because of the trail, my opiate consumption now, which I was on for like 12 years to manage my chronic pain, is really, really, really minimal. And it's only when I ever have a big flare up. Whereas before, I realized before the trail, I'd become reliant on it because it was given to me, and I'm glad it was given to me, and it was very effective. But I was in a loop with it. You become addicted because it's an addicted substance, but you don't know you're addicted because you also have the pain. So you don't know which is the thing is, I need it, but am I also addicted, but I still need it? So it's not an addiction.
It's like me and coffee. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. But now I've got coffee instead, so I'm good. But yeah. So the pain was fine. And then I broke my foot. And then, well, I didn't know I broke the foot, did I? The hospital that x-rayed it in the US said it was tendonitis. So I carried on. And then when I arrived home, it was all big. I couldn't even get my shoe on, and it was agony, and it like cracked as I walked, and I was like, don't mention it to anyone. I did mention it to a few people, obviously, because I was like, it really fucking hurts. And then they x-rayed it here in Cornwall in the hospital and said, hey, would you like to come into the x-ray room? We don't normally let people come in and see. But come and have a look at, how far did you say you hiked on this tendonitis? And I was like, well, 800 miles. They said, just come and look at, can you see that? I'm like, what's that? And they said, that's a compound fracture where the bone is broken and moved. And there's another fracture there. Yeah.
You broke it in 2 places.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
But I think probably it was maybe initially a hairline fracture, and that the hospital in the US just couldn't pick it up, which is fair enough.
Yeah.
And then I just hiked on it and on it and on it with my heavy backpack up and down the mountains, and it just kept cracking. Oh God, no wonder it hurts.
Oh wow, what a souvenir.
Yeah.
You spoke about there at the social side of dealing with pain, and I suppose that kind of leads on to, who did you hike with? Did you go with anybody? Did you start the trail with anybody? Did you start by yourself, or did you organize something, or did you just meet people as you went? Excuse me.
It was very interesting in that I had someone lined up to hike with me the first 100 mile, the 100 mile wilderness, and he's a very proficient outdoorsman. He's a skydiver, he's an emergency medic, a doctor, and had been a good mate for a long, long time. And he bailed like 6 weeks before because he had another project, like some skydiving thing at Everest. I can't remember what it was. And I was like, are you fucking mate, you can't do this. I've never done anything like this before, and I felt confident because you were coming with me in the beginning. No, that was a no-go. And then I had a girl message me who had been like my mortal enemy. We'd been best mates at school, and then she'd been my mortal enemy, and she'd been very unkind to me at school, and it had been very traumatic. And in the years since, I hadn't seen her for like 15 years, and then I bumped into her, and she had asked if she could meet up with me, and I was very nervous, even as an adult, to meet up with her because she was quite scary. And she apologized, and she was incredibly upset, and explained that she'd had a terrible time in school, in her own home life or personal life, and she'd taken it out on me because I seemed so happy, and she'd often thought about apologizing and making it right, and had really sat heavily with her. So I said, of course, I understand, these things happen. Yeah, it was shit, but we're adults now and we'll crack on. And then we became friends, and I got a message from her when she found out that this guy had let me down, and she said, I know it's not very me, but I'm coming, and my husband will look after the kids for 2 weeks, and I am not going to let you down this time. I caused so much grief for you in your life. I want to step up and I want to help out.
Oh wow.
So she got a flight like 4 weeks before, had not done any training, determined to come and support me, and she was incredible. So we did the 100 mile wilderness together, and we fell out and had our ups and downs, but she was amazing. What an incredible person. And then I met hugely brilliant people in the 100 mile and hiked a long time with them, and then met different families along the way. Yeah, that was all very cool. And I came off to go to the Himalayas for a month with my broken foot. I didn't know it was broken, so my trail family went ahead, and then I picked up a new trail family when I came back on in early November.
Just a casual flight over to the Himalayas in between.
Yeah, I had to go and help with I did another trek. Yeah,
skydiving off Everest.
No, not skydiving.
What's the words? Not only are you going to patch up this friendship with somebody, and spend a bit of time with them, but you're going to go into probably one of the most psychologically challenging areas of the Appalachian Trail. Like, it's just forest, and there's barely any sunlight in there for days.
Yeah. And she had bad asthma. She didn't know it, but she was very allergic to pine. And so when we got in there, she was just like, her eyes just swelled up. She couldn't breathe properly. We're all eaten alive with mosquitoes, and we got quite grumpy. But, it was amazing. She's a trooper.
Wow. And then, so relationships like that you feel like that was helping you with dealing with any of the kind of pain that you were going through?
Yeah, I think it was important that somebody came with me in the beginning, not because I was scared, but because I was scared.
Yeah.
But, I wasn't like, ooh, scared, but it was like, I don't know if I can do this, and I need someone who knows me, who knows what I've got going on, because it's quite a lot to try and tell a stranger. If I like seize up and can't move and need to be taken out, or not that I thought that would happen, but I felt like I needed somebody who knew me and knew that I can be resilient, and if that I say that I'm in pain, if I actually vocalize it, it probably means I'm in quite a lot of pain, because I never really talk about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that really helped, and it was a great boost. And although by the end of the 100 mile we both wanted to kill each other, when she left, I was really sad. She left shores, and I was like, oh, I wish she weren't going. But she left me in the hands of some amazing people, Avery, Morgan, and Hambone, all who'd hiked a lot before, especially Hambone and Avery, who'd done the CDT, who'd done the AT twice, and they were great fun and taught me such a lot of stuff. So I was very grateful.
And with these people, like, have you kept in touch with them? Are you planning on doing any hikes with them?
Hambone's given me some good advice about some hikes I'm hoping to do this summer, and he's in the book, and he's a great character, really interesting hiker, and lots of other people I met on the trail I'm still in touch with. So I think probably there are some great girls. The girl that I finished with was called Fitbit, and I picked her up late in the trail. She picked me up, we picked each other up, and it's amazing that you can forge such depths of friendships when you're with people you don't know at all in real life, but you're just stripped back to your bones on the trail, and you can be who you really are, and people trust you much more quickly. It's like me being Cornish. When you meet Cornish people anywhere in the world, you could be in a bar anywhere, and if you hear a Cornish accent or see someone who's Cornish, you just immediately would do anything for each other, you know. Foreigners, strangers in a strange land, but you're not strangers. It's the same with the hiking. You just immediately have that connection.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll be hiking with some people that did the AT this year, hopefully.
I absolutely know what you mean, and anyone who's Irish that's listening to this will agree with this. There's a thing with Irish people when we travel, is that you'll always spot someone Irish before they've even spoken a word, because they're usually
really how.
One, they're either the pastiest person in the room or around. They have red hair, covered in freckles. But the main telling thing is a GAA, which is our national sport. They're wearing their county colours. They're wearing their county jersey. You'll see it like no matter where you are in the world. There's been memes made out of this. There's been pictures of people wearing a County Mayo jersey in, I don't know, the depths of Vietnam, you know, in a jungle in Vietnam. And, you know, it's been on national TV. It's been on, you know, CNN, someone wearing a Dublin GAA jersey. That just triggered me there when he said that.
I love it. Same with the St. Piran's flag from Cornwall.
So you went and did the South West Coast Path. Did you do the whole thing or section of it? I actually can't remember.
No, I did the whole thing. Yeah, the whole thing across, I think it was the end of August and into September. And September, like 6 weeks, 5 weeks maybe. Had a few zeros. And
what a place,
that was brilliant.
What a place to be having a zero, though. Like that part of England is just beautiful.
Yeah, and the great thing was that most of that around Cornwall is home. So there's people all over the place that I know that popped along and did sections with me and kept my spirits up. But you don't really need your spirits keeping up much on the South West Coast Path. I mean, it's hard work, but it's just non-stop stunning.
Yeah,
really brilliant.
From what I've seen, it is just undulating hills constantly going up and down around the coastline.
Lots of rocky cliffs. Yeah.
Do you want to tell our listeners, because some of them might not be familiar with the South West Coast Path, you know, what is it like, the distance, and, you know, because it's not just hiking. There's a few crossings that you have to make as well.
Yeah, so there's quite a lot of estuaries and rivers that go up from the mouth of the sea, going up obviously into the counties and the land. So you have to sometimes wade. We have to, if you meet the tide at the wrong time, you have to wait until the tide goes down so that you can put your pack on your head and wade across knee or thigh kind of height creeks and estuaries in the mud. There are other places where you have to get ferry crossings across to the other side. Some of those are very well organized and, you know, quite commercial, different times on a board. But some of them are just so ad hoc. Like there's one river crossing where you're supposed to just pull a white flap of board down, and a guy somewhere in the river will see it from wherever he is and eventually turn up at the couple of little stone steps at the creek. And on the board, when you open it up, he's clearly so annoyed that with people like not waiting long enough, that you open the flap and it says on the inside, please wait for at least 25 minutes before calling this phone number. And there's a phone number, but he doesn't want you to call it.
I do remember that. I remember seeing that in your story. And then the next scene, you just had this guy like tugging along in this boat coming up towards you. That was quite funny.
Real character. So yeah, there's lots of crossings like that. Yeah, especially when I hiked it, wild camping's not allowed on the Southwest Coast Path. People do, and I think that when you're smart and respectful about leave no trace and it's the right time to do it, I can see how it's a fine thing to do. But it was post first lockdown, summer, everybody was flooding to Cornwall. Tons of people who don't really camp regularly were camping, leaving tents where they were, leaving barbecues, leaving food, scaring wildlife, upsetting farmers. So it was not the time for even someone who can camp wild and know how to do it respectfully to do it. And because I was posting on my Instagram and sharing my journey quite regularly, I definitely didn't want to be posting wild camping and encouraging people who might not understand what that could mean for the environment to do it too if they didn't know what they were doing. So I didn't do any wild camping. I made sure that I was phoning ahead of farmers that I might know or friends knew and asked if I could camp on their land and if it was all right with the livestock and the crops, or I was phoning ahead to campsites. And sometimes that was quite expensive because when you get further up the coast on the south coast, it's big fancy caravan parks who don't really care that you're a walker, who want to charge you £30 to put your tent up in a tiny scrub of land for like 7 hours. And then other places are like, oh, just give me £2 and we don't have any space, but you can put your tent up in our reception on the bit of grass in front of the reception building. We don't mind at all. You know, you'd always find somewhere to sleep, but you might pay a lot for it if you don't want a wild camp.
Yeah.
So that was logistically interesting. But and what I also found interesting, is that I started in the north and hiked around the bottom, round Land's End towards home, which is in Falmouth. And that felt really great. And then when I got to Falmouth and I had to hike the rest of the coast path away from home, it felt really different in the first few days. Didn't want to do it. I was like, I don't want to hike away from my home. I don't mind hiking towards home. I could start in John O'Groats and hike towards home and not feel bad about that at all. But somehow hiking away from home psychologically was weird.
And the challenge then, compare that to the Appalachian Trail. Is there just no comparison, or?
No comparison. Physically, a comparison for sure, because the up and down of the cliffs, etc., was hugely similar. If really on the Southwest Coast Path, a little more staccato, up, down, whereas on the 80 there was further to go, up and further to come down. I would say that the thing that I didn't love about the Southwest Coast Path, really, which is also one of its strengths in some ways, is that you're always hiking through a village.
Yeah.
You're never far from civilization, and you're always bumping into day walkers with their dogs and people enjoying the beautiful stretches of coast path for a few hours on a Sunday lunch or whatever. That's great, and it's brilliant that people are in the outdoors, but it's not the path to choose, especially in the summer. If you want to be more remote and feel absorbed by nature. Water sources are scarce, natural water sources, because it's heavily farmed, and rivers are a bit brackish and pollutants from the fields potentially. And then it was COVID, so people didn't want to fill up your water bottles in cafes. So there's quite a few challenges, it being COVID times, but allowed to move around COVID times. But yeah, the AT is a beast all of itself. Not even a beast, a goddess of a trail.
Because that's sorry, we've got to get the L plug in here now. Apologies, shameless plug, but that's kind of that's one of the things that we like to encourage a bit more on with HiiKER, with the use of it, is these trails that do go through towns, because there's this preconception about long distance hiking that you need to be a hardy person with, like your friends that do base jumps off Everest and is an action man. You need to be this type of character and camp every single night. And yeah, there's a space for that. That absolutely exists. But there are these trails where you can go from town to town. You can hike from one town to the next town or the next town over and sleep there. You don't have to carry everything on your back. You can carry like your day bag, but you can do these trails. And by the sounds of it, the Southwest Coast Path is like one of the extreme versions of that, where you can literally see the Southwest Coast Path, the southwest coast of the UK, a absolutely stunning part of the country,
Yeah.
on foot over a matter of weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. And you could stay if you wanted to in B&Bs every night. If you were really organized and wanted to plan ahead, or a nice campsite every night, and you could feel very safe. And I used your app for the Southwest Coast Path for the whole thing, and it was really, really, really great. And I'm not saying I bought it, with my own money. I genuinely did. I didn't. It's not a kickback. I thought I'd try it out, and it was genuinely super helpful. You put a new update in there. When I first used it, it wasn't so helpful, but as soon as you allowed me to be able to mark where I was going to start that day, and then mark where I wanted to end, and then look at what was available rather than it already being set in sections, that was a game changer. So I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah. And okay, you're on the Southwest Coast Path, but you go through a lot of towns. It's a perfect time for me to ask my stupidly cheesy question. What was your favorite food on the Southwest Coast Path?
My favorite food on the Southwest Coast Path? Oh, Snickers. Always Snickers.
You didn't go into like a nice, fish restaurant?
Oh, I thought you meant like trail food. Oh, my aunt, my pasties. Oh my God, my aunt makes the best Cornish pasties there are, and that's going to start a fight if any Cornish people are listening to that. And famous pasties. She has shops on the Lizard Peninsula and Port Leven, and so yeah, Cornish pasty. That's what you need if you're hiking. Cornish pasty and a cider.
And cider. Rocketfield getting you around the trail. Amazing.
Yeah, and some good fish and chips.
I'll have to Anne's famous pasties.
Anne's famous pasties. Look them up on the interweb.
So what's next? Like, obviously you have a book coming out this year, just that little thing that you need to deal with.
July.
But hiking wise, outdoors wise, what's on the menu?
So on the menu is in May, early May, I'll be doing a stretch of the Southwest Coast Path for a week with Copperfield, which is a breast cancer charity founded by my friend Chris Helenga. And 100 women, just like we went to the Himalayas, 100 women will be coming here. We should be going to the Sahara, but it's not possible. We'll be coming here and doing a stretch of the Coast Path. So I'll be helping with that hike. They get a bunch of celebrities to come and do these kind of annual hikes with them and whatnot. And then after that, I'm trying to look at my calendar. Oh yeah, early June, hopefully, the Tour du Mont Blanc, and hopefully doing some filming for a project when we do that. And then after that, at the end of June, can't really jinx it by saying what it is yet, but a long, big trail in the US.
Hey, that narrows it down quite a lot. So.
It does, doesn't it? Well, it could be any of them, and it's southbound, because after doing the AT southbound, I'm left-handed, and I'm a bit of a southbounder. Southbounder feels like a left-hander, a little bit different.
Okay, excellent. That's quite the year. I hope I'm going to be able to walk to the shop, let alone be able to do the long distance hike.
I mean, maybe that's all I'll end up doing, walking to the shop. Do the Southwest Coast Path the other direction.
We're recording this where are we? January?
And still January. January's lasted 10 years.
Yeah. And both our governments, so the UK government and the Irish government, have both extended lockdowns until March. So who knows what's going to happen. But fingers crossed, I am crossing everything I can cross for you, that you can go and do these things. I can't wait to see you do them.
Thanks, mate.
Fingers crossed that everybody who's listening to this gets to do whatever hiking plans that they want to do. Gail,
for sure.
It has been an absolute pleasure. We'll knock it on the head there.
All right, it's been lovely to talk to you.
It's been an absolute pleasure, and best of luck with everything.
Thanks for having me on.
Chat to you.
Thanks so much.
Isn't she great? Isn't she great? Gail is a fantastic storyteller, as I said. I really enjoyed listening back to that during editing this podcast. Not much to edit. As I said, she's a really good storyteller, and she gets you right in the feels. That's how I felt. Anyway, Hope you liked the podcast. As I said, let us know what you think. Like, share, comment, email, clap. Stand outside your house and clap for me and this podcast and the guests, because that's what we deserve. Stay well, look after yourselves, and happy hiking. Chat to you in 2 weeks.